Good morning. Well, where I'm at, it's morning. It's about 11 a.m. here, but I know a lot of you at different places and different time zones. Um, After our wonderful live yesterday, there were a few questions that had just been, dropped in the comment section, as well as it was a couple of things that stood out when we were just talking. And family, just know I truly appreciate all of you and I just enjoy engaging with you. Although it may be uncomfortable for me to be on camera, I love when y'all have questions. I love when y'all tell me, what you would like to hear more about. So just know that I appreciate each and every one of you. All right, so I believe that it was someone that was in the live and they had asked specifically just about the definition of disorder. And of course, I'm coming from that psychological standpoint. And so, what classifies as someone having an disorder, right? And we're not just talking about the personality disorders, that is, just the definition of disorder by itself. So when in mental health, we say that someone has a disorder, we are actually saying that whatever they are currently dealing with, as far as it can be affecting mood, it can be affecting um, just their interactions with others. It can be just how they may not even be able to any longer navigate or function throughout their day-to-day lives. So in a nutshell, it's any disturbance, any distress that has now affected your overall mood and just overall functioning. Okay. Y'all know I'm very intentional with just speaking on a lot of these things, very matter of fact, because I think what some can do is, they just want to use so much clinical terminology when it's not even necessary in this space. Now, if it comes to a skill and things like that, then yeah, I may have to be more intentional with the verbiage I use, but I do like to just speak to y'all in a matter of fact way and use language that anyone can understand. So I hope that answers your question, Big D. Yep. So disorder in its simplest terms is just the distress or something that takes place in one's life that has had such an impact. Um, Kind of sounds like trauma, right? But has such impact that it begins to function, to affect and impair their overall functioning, right? Okay. All right, so the next thing that I did see, I believe that it was from, I think it was Stray Glads. Let's see, who was it from? I don't remember right off, so I'm not going to even try to go back and find that again. But I know the question itself was in regards to, what happens when a patient, I believe the way it read was when a patient is, not working as hard as the therapist is. And the question posed was, how do you motivate them? Well, I mean, like I said in that comment, it depends on what the disorder is as to how this presents itself, right? So if it's someone that, let's just take it to what we talked about yesterday. With narcissistic personality disorder, we've already said that typically you see it more in males. When I've worked with those individuals, and they just seemingly are not motivated to do the work, if you will, um, gently, I will challenge them. You know, they've gone as far, some individuals, to say, Cameron, listen, I could have done this, I could have Googled this and I could have figured out, what I need to do. I could have YouTubed it and learned what I need to do. Um, and I sit there and listen to them because you have to understand what's at play, and what's going through their mind and their distorted view of self. And after I let them talk and tell me how they could have easily gone and located all of this information themselves, I will just ask, okay, why didn't you? If it was so easy, then why don't you just do that? If these skills seem so juvenile to you, then why don't you just do that? See how I did that? That's gentle challenging, is what we call that. Because it's not going to help that individual for me to go down a rabbit hole. No. They literally, you have to be quite direct. And after that, then, they may say, well, I mean, yeah, I guess you got a point. And so then I'll come back to and say, okay, tell me this. You're fully oriented. You know where you are. You're in a crisis stabilization unit. You're not just at some retreat, right? You're not on a meditation retreat. No, you are on a unit that is one step down from an actual hospital. We are the last resort before you get sent to a hospital or you step down and come to us, right? And they'll say, yeah, no, I'm aware. And I'll say, okay. So if it be that you met criteria to be admitted here, then that tells me that what you previously were doing prior to being admitted here was not working for you. Are you able to show me and prove to me that it was? We all know the answer to that question. They aren't able to prove to me that it was. If they were, they would not be sitting across from me or beside me. And I'll talk about that at another time in the different ways that I do provide counseling. Um, so borderline personality disorder, when I see that they're not as motivated, they typically can say, I've tried everything. Their view may be, and you see it very often, I've tried everything. I mean, what I need you to understand, Cam, is it's them. I mean, I wouldn't be in this place, Cameron, if it wasn't for what they did to me. And of course, I'm going to validate their feelings. But how many times have I said that we got to check the facts in those feelings because we can validate feelings, but a lot of times those feelings aren't factual, right? So I'm going to validate their feelings and I'm going to tell them, you know, I'm hearing you. I want you to validate your own feelings. Right now, you feel as though everyone has forsaken you. And right now, yes, you are at a crisis stabilization unit, but you don't even understand why you're here because you're not the one who presented as the problem. It's everyone else in their mind. I'm not saying literally that's what it is, but for them, it's everyone else. So you hear a lot of the blaming, right? And for them, I'll come back and just say, have you ever thought about something? And of course, they're going to be like, what's that? Um, that throughout all of the years that you had these interactions with others, and through all of the pain you've endured, the hurt that you had to endure, there was only one common denominator. And typically they'll just say, yeah, it was me. Other times they might cuss me out, get up and walk out. I mean, that happens a lot, and I get that. Like, you definitely can't, I don't recommend anyone to become a therapist and go into something like this if you are internalizing and taking things personally, you know. So they may do that. They may just be like, screw you. Literally, that has happened. I mean, obviously more obscenities than that, right? Um, or they may have capability of some level of accountability and saying, I'm the common denominator. And I'll just say, okay, that's good work. Now we can start working. Because at the end of the day, what I'll tell them, I validate your feelings and you don't have any control over how others respond. What you can control is yourself. You can learn to better control yourself and how you interact. So just to answer that question and how I can help motivate someone. And like I also told the brother in the chat, in the comments that asked this question, when I have ruled out any health concerns, like say they're, for instance, still not motivated to do any work, and I've been able to rule out that we have any health concerns, um, neurocognitive, you know, thought processes, something neurocognitive that may be going on. Or I have also been able to rule out that none of their behaviors are substance induced. Then I start looking at another personality disorder. And that personality disorder is dependent personality disorder. So, good brother, I do hope that I answered your question in that, and I appreciate your comment. All right. It was someone else that commented, and that was the beautiful Shawalaya, my beautiful sis. Always love to see you. I'm hoping that I can catch you live today. I saw that you were going to be coming on in a little bit. So I do look forward to seeing you soon. And Shawalaya, it was just like, I'm hearing you. I heard the video. I heard everything that you were describing and maybe possibly examples. And like I said, I love interacting with y'all on that live. But she wanted to just hear about narcissistic personality disorder. And I'm assuming definitely from that clinical definition, according to that diagnostic statistical manual, the DSM. Now we're up to 5, DSM-5. So it's important that when it comes to any diagnosis, we always have to have a certain amount of items that that person has exhibited. And in some diagnosis, we need it to have happened for a certain amount of time before we can even begin to count the items and behaviors that they may have been exhibiting, right? I hope that makes sense. Because some individuals, they will start exhibiting certain different traits or certain behaviors, but a lot of times it may not have started further enough back, or it may not have been something that has been going on for a year or more. It may have been substance-induced psychosis. So anyone that is using substances, then we definitely do not make any major diagnoses. And I'm sure you can understand why. And it's just because it can be, we need to see them, when they're sober, because they may not exhibit any of these traits or symptoms, behaviors, right? So getting back to narcissistic personality disorder. So the biggest thing that we see in this is that this grandiosity of thinking, right? Like you heard me say earlier, it's that individual's view of self, right? Um, it may come out in ways that, they think of themselves as being more important than others. They have great difficulty in trying to show others empathy, if you will. Um, Somehow they may always bring it right back to self, okay? Because it's very difficult for them to ever take self out of anything, right? Um, they increasingly have this need to receive, constant validation. Um, this constant validation and admiration that they seek often can involve them being manipulative, right? Just to achieve that sense of importance and validation and admiration from others. The DSM even uses the verbiage possibly exploiting others to be able to gain for self, right? Um, you've often heard people say, "Oh, they are so entitled," you know. Um, so you can see that as well. On the simplest terms, they may have or present with an attitude of arrogance. That is, like I said, everything is increased. It's not like it's, look at them being arrogant over there. No, it's on the high end, right? And on the flip side of that, it really impairs a lot of their just as I was talking about, even the definition of disorders, right? These traits, these behaviors, it impairs, you know, all of their it may just come down to their career and just how they engage and connect to others socially. Um, their ability to maintain healthy relationships. Because think about it, if you're having this grandiose, sense of self, if you're constantly needing for everyone to admire you and shower you and praise you and validate you, um, but then it's hard for you to return that or even be empathetic to what that person may be going through. Um, if you may even start to take advantage of others because you are so pushed by your own personal desires or wants. How hard would it be? Think about that. Thinking of everything I just named, do you really think it would be easy to maintain, healthy relationships with others? So, like I said, these traits, it's so many of them. But the individual would have to meet at least 5 of those traits, as well as we still would do an actual assessment. Um, so, yeah, I mean, you already know how I view it, y'all. I just see it in a way that they're suffering. Um, I don't allow myself, and I'm glad I don't, because like I said before, if I take things personally and all of that, that may not be the best profession for someone if, they cannot just look at it for what the underlying reason may be. And which is why I got into this field, is because I do enjoy understanding one's behavior and just how we can maybe begin to make changes and shift perspectives in order for them to have a better quality of life, you know? So I do hope that answered your question, Shawalia. As always, if it's anything else that may resonate, I look forward to hearing your feedback. I love when y'all do provide feedback and ask questions, or you want something that may be willing to expound upon. I enjoy that. BF said something on the live yesterday. And for anyone that has listened to me for some time, you have heard me talk about this. And he didn't go into detail with it. He just was like, I kind of feel like, um, and it was on his live from yesterday evening or afternoon. But he said, I kind of have always felt like everyone has, some level of mental health issues. And if some of you have remembered, I've always said, no one is exempt. At some point, we have all exhibited some of these traits and symptoms. The only difference is that most people may be able to balance themselves out. That's the only difference, is that when someone gets off kilter, they're able to recognize it and they're able to balance themselves out, right? Um, some people, they may have certain chemicals or too much of certain chemicals being released, or they may be deficient. And so, they may need a little more help as far as medications. And if that's needed, then so be it. But the bottom line is, I've always been more concerned. Always, I've been more concerned when people do have this mindset that, oh no, those are the people, they have mental health issues. I don't have that. And it's like, okay, nobody's giving you a diagnosis, right? But we all at some point have, you know, had those moments. We have, exhibited some of these traits and symptoms, whether it be depressive symptoms, anxiety. Like I said, the only difference is you just may be able to bring yourself back balanced independently versus that person that just may need a little more support. Doesn't make anything wrong with them. Mm-mm. All in all, I'm hoping that this has provided just the answers to some of your questions. And I do look forward to seeing y'all soon. I do pray that all of you have a wonderful day. And just remember, we all doing this thing called life for the very first time. Be gentle. I'll see y'all next time. Peace and blessings. Bye.